Greetings, and welcome back to another episode of Myth, Magic, and Movies. I am the Bohemian Fox. We continue with the Harry Potter series, reviewing each of the movies in the franchise, beginning with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This time we look at Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, delving deeper into the lore and uncovering horror elements within the film. But before continuing, please like the video, it helps immensely, and we are looking to grow our audience. If there are any horror, fantasy, or true crime movies and television programs you would like us to discuss, comment below. We are working on longer, topical episodes for this series, exploring the gothic elements within the Star Wars films, examining literary motifs, possibly exploring the mysterious world of the Nephilim, and much more. So, if you don't want to miss anything, subscribe for the latest episode drops. We also have plenty of shows on the channel, from The Robot on Mondays, Thespians and guest reviews on Tuesdays, trailer reactions on Wednesdays, and full reviews on Fridays. Anyway, without further ado, let us now explore the mysteries of the Chamber of Secrets.
So, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets continues what we've seen in the first movie with the Sorcerer's Stone. But what I really enjoy about this is that there's something far more dangerous, that there are more things at stake than what we saw in the Sorcerer's Stone, because when we saw the Sorcerer's Stone originally, we knew there was a threat, but it wasn't really serious, if you know what I mean.
It wasn't in our face. It was a threat that was easily, I say, like brushed under and not causing chaos or havoc as the whole school, right? It was more of this, like, these things were going on. It was all hush hush.
Right.
Now the secret's coming out, right?
Well, also too, because in the Sorcerer's Stone, it really didn't affect that many people. I think the only person it really affected was Harry.
Yeah.
The
sister.
No, I'm talking about the Sorcerer's Stone. Like,
wasn't there another participant that got involved in that somehow when he was going? I thought there was another person that was like taken or stolen. I know I'm thinking of the Chamber of Secrets probably, but
in Chamber of Secrets, the stakes are far higher, because not only do we see a bunch of students getting petrified, but we also see Ginny Weasley. She gets taken into the chamber itself. And I remember
the two friends are more involved in this one too. Obviously having to do the chess and having to go through the door. I think they're just a little bit more involved with the danger aspects of it now.
Right, because in this particular case, Hermione herself gets affected, because she gets petrified midway in the movie.
And the mirror. Yep.
But another thing, here's something I want to ask you too, because as I was watching this movie, I was sort of thinking about a lot of different elements in this movie that kind of played out, that kind of sounded oddly familiar, because Malfoy talks about the necessity of the wizarding world being pure, the purebloods, and he calls Hermione a mudblood, which is the equivalent of calling someone the N-word, right, in the magical community. But what it made me think of was there's a sort of biblical element to it, because if you think about Malfoy and his family, they have a sort of perverted notion of what purity needs to be, right? And it's ironic that in their pursuit of purity, they use a giant snake to kind of create a purge, whereas, as you and I would be familiar with in the biblical story, the notion of purity is far more different. But then a snake comes and ruins it, ruins paradise, and therefore we end up in the state that we're in right now.
It was a lie. I mean, that's the thing, there's a lot of, I think, in her writing and in these stories, where people may not see it because they see witchcraft, but there's so much biblical truth, and it's all about kind of like the love and the hate, right? And which is a Bible thing, right? But now we're talking about specifics like the serpent. And it's funny because Slytherin, right? You talk about the serpent, they talk about it, and there's these levels to, and good and bad, and then you got, the righteous Gryffindor, right? And so it is this battle against, even within the witch community, against light and dark. It just is. And really, it's the love of like Harry and his family and his group of people who are like, hey, everybody's welcome here. And then there's the other side of it where there's the darkness with, you know, Voldemort and his ideals and how he sees it and how he's pillaged a bunch of people within the community to think the same way. Now these guys are hating, and they want to not only use the pure as a reason, but now they're abusing other people in the pursuit of that. And that's where the evil comes in, is that they're actually imposing on other people and harming people. And that,
Right.
again, there's that line of good and evil. Not much we can do about it. You can't really love Voldemort. That's the whole thing, is Harry at the end wins because he's like, dude, you can have everything, but you have nothing. Nobody loves you. They only fear you. And again, keep that in mind as we're starting here early in the movies. That's the long-term goal. But even early in the movies, they're like foreshadowing this like serpent and angel, if you will. Like, I feel like he's a savior. Harry's like the savior in these stories over and over again. He's going to come and save us. Look, Voldemort couldn't kill him. Right. So again, you said it, but it's like, dude, there's so many lines to like biblical truth. Right. And again, you can be religious or not religious. I don't really enjoy the religious portion of it. I enjoy the educational portion of the Bible for me. Right. I
Right.
feel like there's a lot of history and a lot of human understanding. She puts that in her writing so well, because she's writing about witches and witchcraft, which anybody who's religious is like, oh, I can't fathom this, right?
Right. It's
But
the
people who,
antithesis. Yeah.
yeah, but people who are like, oh, I understand the Bible and I understand what it's, you know, it's a good thing. And this story interlines with it so well, because it really is life or death. And so bringing his friends into this thing, and his friends being, you know, they're only going after people who in some regard are good people. You notice it was never one of the evil people getting hit by the basilisk, or, you know, it was always like a Gryffindor
Or Hufflepuff or
or a
anyone
Hufflepuff's a
else.
good one.
Yeah.
Well, Ravenclaw can be kind of dark too, right? But Hufflepuff and Gryffindor kind of live on that same side of things. And then you got the Slytherin and the Ravenclaw, which very much have more of that those darker elements to them. And I love that. I love that she does this, because again, the witch and wizarding world isn't much for the biblical world, and the
Hmm.
biblical world isn't much for the wizard world. But yet, I know lots of people that go to church that love Harry Potter. I was one of them for a long time. When I went to church, my family, we all watched Harry Potter movies. And
Yeah.
so when the pastor finds out, he's confused, and I'm confused when he thinks it's a big deal. Well, what do you mean? Well, you know, you shouldn't be watching things that have to do with it. I said, you understand, this is a fictional story. We're not talking about real things. This woman is a brilliant story writer.
I
And
mean,
actually,
but you could say the same thing about Tolkien, because Tolkien wasn't necessarily
Tolkien did the
using.
same thing.
Yeah, exactly,
He
exactly.
did the same thing.
I
That's
mean,
why I love these, man. That's why I love what we're talking about.
because the thing with Tolkien is, like, you know, yes, he has elements of like magic and everything in there, but the magic isn't the point. It's what the meaning behind all of this.
He's
Um,
the realist magic, I think, in most of the stories where I talked to you about like making it more realistic. I
yeah.
feel like his magic is way more realistic-esque than a lot of the other movies with the potions and the, you know, it's, you can see the level of maturity in his writing compared to Harry Potter. She wrote
Mhm.
it for a less mature group, but we all freaking grew up with it, and as adults we're still freaking fanatics. Even though it was made for kids, me and you were having adult conversations about these child stories, as
Mhm.
because it's adulting level of writing, right? We can go back into it and rip it apart and be like, holy smokes, there's so much more going on here. I mean, we're just at movie 2, and I'm already like, there's so much foreshadowing going on, so much more movie to happen. So let's get back to that first part again. Okay, so we're going into new elements of danger. They're getting more people involved. People are getting harmed. I also like the fact that like all these new elements are coming in um within the story of like, oh, there's more to the school, there's more behind this. They're showing more elements of darkness, like the stuff that was under the rug in the first movie, like I'm saying.
Mhm.
They're coming to the surface now and being like, holy smokes, this isn't all perfect. There's a lot of weird dark stuff that still hasn't been dealt with, hence the Slytherin family line, hence now it's being reopened again. How is this happening? And now we're getting pulled along in the mystery of it. Oh wow, how is this happening? So I think she pulls us in really well with the line of danger and the mystery.
Well, there's also a gothic element to it that we really didn't see in the first movie because because as I've said earlier, there's a hint of danger where the stakes are much higher in this movie than they were in the last movie. And
Yeah.
what's also interesting too is the fact, and you've alluded to this as well, there are more elements in the school to which we had no idea until we saw later on in this movie. For example, the entrance of the Chamber of Secrets, right? I mean, we never realized it would be anything as innocuous as a girl's restroom until you go in there and Harry says something in parcel tongue, and it opens up and it creates this chamber, right, or this tunnel that leads you into this chamber that no one ever knew about.
One person knew, and she didn't live to tell anybody. And that's
Right.
that other part to it.
Well, also too, nobody ever bothered to ask her as well. That's what I find so interesting.
But keep that in mind. When that happened to her, they shut down that bathroom. So again, the Chamber of Secret became even more of a secret, because how is anybody going to even run into this thing if now it's even more distant from passerbys? Nobody goes in there anymore.
Right,
because years.
Right, becomes part of the legend, like the four founders of Hogwarts. Really.
Yeah, but nobody knew that it was there. It wasn't like they blocked it off because they knew where it happened. They just blocked it off because of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't put one and one together until Harry opened the doors. Because did anybody even know where it was? Because none of the teachers knew, right? It wasn't privy to them.
No,
it was only privy to the return of the Slytherin heritage or whatever.
Yeah, Tom Riddle, and that leads me to another thing too, because you mentioned about Harry having that confrontation with Voldemort, where he says, you have everything, but you've got nothing. And what struck me was the fact was that Tom he develops this hatred, early on in life, and he lets it fester to the point where it becomes, it corrupts him, kind of like how the ring corrupts, Smeagol in terms of Gollum.
Yes, we talked about those. Yeah, the elements, the cost of the element, right?
Right, and you almost kind of have to wonder, like, what could I mean, if one little thing could have changed in his life, do you think he would have gone down that same trajectory? Because he does mention how his father was Muggle born and he abandoned his mother when he found out she was a witch and she was pregnant.
Sure.
And that kind of lent that sort of hatred that kind of grows within him over time.
Yeah, it's resentment. Yeah.
Right, but at the same time, you can sort of feel for him as well, because there's a scene in the movie where Dumbledore says they might have to close Hogwarts because of the death, and Tom just basically says, "I've got nowhere else to go." So you could sort of still see the human element within Tom Riddle before he becomes, he who must not be named.
Yeah. No. Again, the other part of it is, like, he also killed himself. Those parts of him as he was creating
the Horcruxes. Yeah.
Yeah, because again, that's part of a portion of your soul, and I think the innocence that was Tom Riddle dissipated over that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he puts part of himself in that journal that Ginny finds, and she begins to talk to Tom in it, and over time it's one of those things where it slowly takes over her, and she begins doing all these crazy things. Like, you remember, she was the one who actually wrote all those strange messages on the wall. Yep.
That was all Ginny. Yeah, again, but that's the thing. It's also Tom Riddle at that time, frozen in time. It's not Voldemort at his worst. So she's only dealing with, they're giving us a version, this is what I love about it, a version of Tom Riddle in Hogwarts that we don't get to see. But we see it through Jenny. Like, he wasn't a good person even then. He was already doing things to harm people.
Right, the seedbed was kind of planted already. Like, we're starting to see those elements.
16, 17, 18 years old type of thing, right? He's still in high school, and he's already pulling off some of these, high risk, high reward for the dark arts.
Well, another thing that I want to mention too, because they keep going on about the heir of Slytherin. Only the heir of Slytherin can, open the Chamber of Secrets. Only the heir of Slytherin can control the basilisk. You kind of have to wonder, like, because I was thinking this too as I was watching the movie, like, how aware of he was Tom Riddle of the implications.
He probably went there. He probably went and hung out with that thing, and they know each other very well over the years he was there.
Right.
right? Until he left or whatever. And I'm thinking that's probably the whole thing, is that he needed to come back and finish what he started.
Right. Even if he couldn't do it in his current form, he would still manipulate someone to kind of do the dirty work for him.
Yep, that was part of his cuts, like the soul cuts over time. It just so happens that he still had that ambition as a student at the time. So when she got that book, that particular version of Voldemort, which wasn't Voldemort yet, still had the same ambitions as a young child, and was able to finish where he started.
Right, and also fueled by the fact that he felt a lot of resentment towards the Muggle-borns, and him
Yeah, I think
being
you hit it
half
on the
Muggle
head.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. I think that resentment comes from a place again, and that's like someone like yourself who's going to watch the movie over and over again, try to analyze it. I think people miss that element of what you're talking about because it's kind of a minuscule part of the movie or the story, but it's a big deal when you catch it. When you don't catch it, I feel like you're kind of lost in that. But the minute that you say, oh yeah, he had a Muggle-born dad that left his mom because she was a witch, boom, now the story and all these things kind of line up with that information and expands much bigger now as developing Tom Riddle as a character. But you can't do that in the small amount of time watching the movie for the first time by itself. You're not going to catch these kind of subtle things you're talking about. It
Yeah.
takes that's what I love about it. It takes us going back and setting these like time frame and putting them, layering them on top of each other. So say we're taking parts of this movie and parts of this movie, and now we're lining them up. And it's like, now you see things clearer. Right. And so I think you hit it on the head, is that whole thing, think about how bad Malfoy was manipulated as a child. He knows nothing different. His father was looking up to Voldemort that's what he wanted to be, was the Dark Lord, right? You can see it in him. He's not good enough, but Dean wants to be necessary, like deems to be that good, the right-hand man of this guy. It backfired on him because Voldemort has no love for his people, right? And you could see that over time with the relationship with him. But his kid doesn't see any of those dark relationships early on, and all he gets is the manipulation. And we see it right when Harry meets him and he says something about Weasley. Remember? Because Malfoy came to introduce himself to Harry, and right away it wasn't a negative thing until he bit on saying something negative about Weasley. Yeah, about Ron Weasley. And then you notice Harry chose his side. Instantly, he's like, this is a bad guy. Didn't want to shake his hand. And so it's funny because Harry kind of walked in, could have been a Slytherin guy, could have gone a lot of directions in his character development. But because of the negativity that was influenced on Malfoy, it influenced Harry to make a decision. Am I good or a bad type of thing, right?
And Dumbledore and Dumbledore mentions this as well near the end of the movie, where Harry asks, why wasn't I placed in Slytherin? And Dumbledore says, well, what did you say? And Harry said, well, I asked the Sorting Hat to not put me in Slytherin. And Dumbledore basically says it's our choices that define us, not our
not
actions.
Who we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not who we are born into, but who we decide.
Right. And I thought that was a very poignant thing for him to say, because it definitely because it also kind of differentiates. Yeah, well, think about it too, because Voldemort and Harry are both coming from the same background. They're both half-breeds, right?
Sure.
But the thing is that what makes them different are their choices. Voldemort tends to surrender to his darker, baser instincts, whereas Harry, to your point, he definitely wants to not go down that path. He wants to elevate himself. He wants to improve himself.
It's different of having the power and chasing the power.
Right.
Harry doesn't want the power, but accepts it. Voldemort desires the power, but abuses it.
Right.
Right. So the humility and the ego, again, it's all about decisions. They have the same power. They have the same tools. The wands are like identical tools. Yet Harry's seems to be righteous over and constantly negating everything that Voldemort trying to do it, because love always is going to be more powerful than hate.
Right.
And again, it's just, we're just going to keep going back to that part of the story, but I mean, it's the same thing. We're realizing everything about the Chamber of Secrets and why it had to be hidden was because it was evil, because it was hurting people, because it was about hate. And Harry is the man that he doesn't even hate. He dislikes Malfoy, but we see later in the freaking movie, he risks his own life to save Malfoy.
Yeah.
And Ron's like, what the hell, dude? You're like, no, we're not going back for him. And Harry can't do anything different. Even Ron, as a good person, is more willing to save himself and his own bacon than somebody else. It's Malfoy. Who cares? And Harry's like, it's a human being.
Right.
I'm never going to be like those guys. That was Harry's decision throughout this whole movie.
It's a line you don't cross, like just like with Batman's rule, there's a line that you don't cross.
And when it comes to justice and being what he is, as they call a vigilante. Yeah, what line? Where's the line you don't cross? It has to be a moral compass, and it has to be one that has to do with, like I said, harm and hurt. I'm going to hurt somebody who's harming somebody. I think we've talked about this before. I think some of my moral compass is like, if I saw somebody getting hurt, I wouldn't have a problem. Or if I saw somebody getting harmed, I wouldn't have a problem hurting that somebody that was harming someone.
Right.
Right. That's my line. But I'm not going to harm somebody because I'm being hurt. Like I have no problem defending myself. Right. But my line is when I see a victim in a circumstance, I'll stop my car. I will jump out. I will jump up a flight of stairs, jump off a building. Like, I have been known to turn myself, my normal everyday goes off because of a situation, because my compass is always true. It's always going to take over me. Like, an EMT gets called to a scene. They know what to expect when they come up to a scene. There's not like a shock for them, right? They do it over and over again. But for me, I'm not looking for that happening to happen. So it's like a switch being knocked up. Now, do I have choice? Of course I do. But let me say it this way. I've always made this choice so my body knows what to do. So I just automatically, my moral compass just is implanted into my world because I do it over and over again. Harry Potter is an authentic human being. He can't be anything but himself. And you see it in Hermione with the way that she hides her intelligence and a lot of the things that she does. You see it with Ron with his insecurity and the stuff that goes on with him, right? You see it with Malfoy with his ego and my dad and this and my family and this. And it's never about him. It's about the people before him, right? He never earned it. Harry is exactly who he is all the time. And so he doesn't have a choice in some regards to how he responds to the world around him. So this is why people are like, why is it always you? Because nobody else is Harry Potter. And he is this particular person. And they were all right about him. Right? It's not wrong. Everything they said about Harry is true. And now, why is that part of it? Because it's a story and that's the way that it works. But as a participant and us going along that story with Harry, it's a way to show people, again, I believe this is her writing, that being you and being true is the best way to live. And it will outsource your circumstances no matter how bad it is. Because if you're you and you're being the best you and you're giving to the world the best of you, then you're going to be okay. Because now, like, again, look at all the people over time. It was just Harry saving the world and the Wizarding world. How many more people started getting involved after this movie? Even during this movie, like I said, Harry going and playing chess with Ron and Ron taking himself out so Harry can move on because Harry's the guy. He sacrificed himself knowing Harry needed to move forward. Who does that? Leaders are able to do that. And Harry's not even trying to lead anybody. He's just that guy, right? And so, again, what I'm saying is, she's writing all these things, all these secrets, all these things that are going on, all these negative, angry, resentful people. And they're placing somebody who's not angry at the world, who's not bitter about his family and all that's going on. He's sad about it. He's sad that his parents are gone, but he's not bitter about it. He's learned to work through it, right? Oh, look at my dad. Now I'm a seeker. Look at my mom and I can be a really good wizard, right? There's these like things that he makes positive out of his loss. Like
Right.
right. And he turns it into his life. And it just so happens those two things allow him to be the superhero in a sense that he is, because he is one of the best seekers. I mean, no freshman started in or whatever grade he was in was able to be a seeker, a starter, and he's the only one that did it outside of his dad and now his
Right.
mom. Now he finds that freaking book later on, and he's taking things. What I'm saying is magic is becoming where it was like, hey, there's this legend, and he didn't live up to it. I think we start seeing some of him living up to the legacy that they tell us about in the beginning of the movie. Now we're actually starting to see him persevere and showcase those tendencies that we aren't sure are there. Because he doesn't know magic. He doesn't know the wizarding world. He's just like a blank canvas. And we're like, oh, we want him to win, but he's this like goofy little kid. But then after defeating him in the first movie, now we're here. He's got the sword. Gryffindor gave him the sword. He's fighting the Basilisk. He kills Tom Riddle with the Basilisk tooth, right? And saves Jenny, right? It's like, holy crap, this 12-year-old kid is a hero now. And so now we're seeing a repeat in the sense of like, oh, he just survived the first one, right? Because it kind of was a weird thing, turning that guy into ash. We felt like he got kind of lucky. This didn't seem like luck. This was courage under fire. This was Harry going into the pit alone, right? And coming out a victor. Like, again, movie number 2 or book number 2, this guy has already got me sold that he is just a legend. And now what we're going to do is just go back to school and everything's going to be normal again. Movie number 3. I mean, that's kind of what they're walking through this. It's like, oh, back to normal again. He fixed everything. Nobody died, right? Nobody died in this movie.
No.
Just
they
the
were
Basilisk.
Yeah, they were all petrified. But what I will say is, by the time we get to the Prisoner of Azkaban, we can sort of see a transition where things begin to take on a far more darker, aspect than what we saw in the first 2 movies.
It becomes weird,
right?
The temperament changes. It's not the kid thing anymore. Now it's like he's in freaking trouble. Now they know about him. Before it was like they know of him.
Yeah, it's localized.
It's really lore. It's lore, yeah. Right? And so now after this has happened, all of the people that were backing Voldemort and waiting for his return are now scared of a child. And now all the people who were saying, hey, Harry's this thing, and they believed in him, now are seeing it, and everything's getting built back up. So what's happening is we're seeing this at the end of the movie and the beginning of the next movie, or the books too, these worlds crashing together. Before, Voldemort was that piece that was separate. Nobody talk about him. We don't have to worry about him. There was this separation between Voldemort, his people, and the crew. They were in hiding. And they were starting now to come out, all these things, because Voldemort's making moves, and Harry negated that. And now they're forced to come out, because if they don't, it's like hitting a nest. Like if you ever hit a nest of hornets, they all come out.
Yeah.
They got nowhere to go. Harry just hit that nest so hard the second time with the basilisk and the bloodletting, trying to purifying the blood and stopping that now all the hornets' nests just got hit. So right. I think we see that going into Azkaban. Now Voldemort's freaking out. He's getting his guys out of jail, right? He's getting his people back in order. He's trying to create his order physically now. Because before it was like a hypothetical group that was in hiding.
Right. Well, it's also by the time we get to Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, the wizarding world is polarized. It begins to divide into 2 camps.
Yeah, exactly. Really. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Right.
But the other one, they were always there. We just nobody talked about it.
But it didn't manifest itself, really.
Yes. Yeah. Until this happened, because Slytherin got hit. Right. And it got hit hard. And so all the people that were expecting that thing to happen didn't happen because of Harry. They're all going after Harry. They're not going after the other wizards. I feel like they went from getting this wizard, kind of like
right. Well, that's because Harry is a figurehead now. He's the leader of the resistance.
Exactly. It's working. What they thought, what everybody was laughing at, right? And the people were hoping for now is a reality. And it hasn't just happened once, it's happened again. Voldemort is freaking out. They don't show us any of it, but they show us in the way that he responds in the third movie. But again, I want to go back to the second movie and finish off with this. You know, the biggest thing to me in this movie is Harry is unburying the secrets. He is the revealer of truth. This is where the main character needs to be. And she does a good job isolating him in the regards to, if not me, then who? Because everybody else was gone when he actually had to face the actual battle. The people that were there, you know, backing him and helping him with it, getting him there, figuring things out. But it came to the final battle. It was just Harry. And actually, you know, came in and actually helped him. This is what I talk about this all the time. The Holy Spirit, if you will, when we're talking about these things, right?
Yeah, Fox.
The Phoenix. If you don't remember, the Phoenix came in and tore the eyes out of the basilisk and evened the opportunity for Harry to be involved. Without that happening, Harry was screwed. Because it could hear him, you know, it could see him. And, you know, the hearing part, Harry was able to make these moves and sneak out this way and throw a rock that way and then get ahead of him and then get the knife into the spot. Before that, he didn't have a chance. Right? So let's keep in mind, again, where did that come from? What element of that is coming in that had nothing to do with Harry? That was the universe playing its part in helping what it wants to do to make things right again. Okay, so like I said, it had to do with the sword came from the school of Gryffindor.
Yeah, it was in the Sorting Hat.
So again, that's like, let's talk about the Godhead, right? I really do feel like Gryffindor is the Godhead to the school, and you know, that's Slytherin is kind of the other power to it, but that's Gryffindor kind of runs the school as the head, the headly part of it. So again, the Phoenix is part of that thing. The sword is an element. I don't know if you know about it, but the sword is actually the word. So they say the word is the sword, right? And the Holy Spirit is something, an element that will come and fight your battles for you and even the score. So again, it's just crazy to me because I grew up with the word, right? I didn't exactly enjoy it as a kid, and it was forced on me. But when I started reading a lot of you know, heavier storytellers, I realized, holy smokes, they're using, you know, stuff from Buddha, they're using stuff from Tao, they're using but there's a lot of biblical truths in this stuff, right? The power of good and evil. And so Harry couldn't do it alone. There was something, another element, but he had to believe in it. He had to be part of it. If he was part of Slytherin, would he have ever got that sword? No. It was only for people who are in Gryffindor. Only. That's just and again, he chose that. It was a choice. The elements of what she's writing, and there's story to it, they're all life circumstances that I think she's drawing out to us in a story for kids. She's teaching kids to be good, loving, courageous, fighting your own battles, but also protecting other people, right? Not just like, hey, it's only about me and my life, but also if I fight this thing can't go and hurt other people. And I'm talking about inner battle. When I fight my jealousy, when I fight my bitterness, when I fight those inner snakes inside of me, the world benefits from that. When I'm not a hateful person and I fight hate with love, right? I say all these things because we're talking about such a great storyline with great character development, awesome mystical creatures, which I'm just so enthralled by her whole world. Especially we go into Beast and the second layer of Harry Potter movies, Fantastic Beasts and stuff. She's just got me, right? I'm sold. But when we go back to these elements of each individual movie, keep in mind they're maturing. The first one was a mature level, but it got more mature the next level. And now we're going to go into Azkaban. That's I think we're talking like tween maturity level now, when we're not talking elementary or preschool level coming in the first movie, second movie. There's more dark, daring elements now because we're actually are facing and fighting these things. So now they're fighting back. Hence the darkness. Dude, the whole movie's almost like in a gray tone in Prisoner of Azkaban. The minute we get out of this movie and it ends, it's like, oh, we're all cheerful and everything's great. But now what's the backlash? I feel like that's kind of the finishing point of the Chamber of Secrets. Oh, crap. The secret's out now. There's no hiding it. And now here comes the backlash of these things this fight that I have. It's not over. Just because I won one part of it doesn't mean the battle's over. It's actually just beginning.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're dealing with the fact that Harry destroys one of the Horcruxes, Voldemort now feels the need to kind of step out into the open because, if he doesn't, he risks losing more of himself as a result,
Yeah, they're on to him. Yep, and he's scared. Like I said, okay, a snake only strikes when it's cornered. Okay, that's part of the deal. They live off of fear. And so Harry faces fear in a very different way. He has courage, where I think the element of this movie and it happening, anger is how Voldemort deals with fear. Not courage, anger, with more fear. So he starts fighting back and starts hurting people. And so again, we're seeing these elements of power being abused. Harry's getting more power because he's learning more things and he's using it to protect people, where Voldemort's losing his power, getting scared, and he's hurting people during the whole process to try to protect it. Self-preservation.
Right.
It's just again, I feel like this movie, we talked about moral compass. I think that's what it's actually introducing in regards to these kids watching these movies from the first one to the second one. And I want to keep saying this word. She's maturing us as we go.
All right.
In her writing, in the dark elements, in people dying. Like, nobody dies in the first movie. Nobody really gets hurt. The second movie, now we got more people getting hurt. Things could really happen.
Right. You're like in a death-like state, but it's not death itself.
Yeah. And now she's opening up the thing that people actually dying and things actually happening as we're going on. They're not anybody it's like a distance death, right? Something in the newspaper. But then we get to the next level and his best friend, Goblet of Fire. And again, so what I'm saying is she's maturing us slowly into taking on more. And the Chamber of Secrets, I think it's just such a perfect element because the secret's out now. It's been this long hidden secret of hate and nobody knew what was going on. And it was like just in the waiting. And now Harry is the one to not only have to be, he had to be it, right? He had to be dark to be able to open up that Chamber of Secrets. He had to embrace the element of hate and darkness because the Voldemort part, the parcel tongue, all that came with was when he got hit and became a Horcrux. He's carrying Voldemort in him. That's why he is able to open up that door and do it. But that wasn't Voldemort's plan. That's just how it ended up happening. So what happened for bad ended up working out for good, because that part that we're like, oh no, is Harry evil because of this Voldemort part that's in him? Actually, no. What it's actually doing is giving us an inner understanding to Voldemort, like making him more, humanizing him, because we get more of his story through the Looking Glass or whatever, right? Professor Dumbledore starts sharing with Harry a little bit more of his history, so we get a little bit more of it. We see it a little bit more when he's fighting Voldemort later on in the movies, and Voldemort's in his head, and he's trying to mess with him, and then Harry pulls back, and we start seeing these other things. So there's a vulnerability, I think, also that happens because Voldemort is this very scary, don't talk about, powerful, everybody's afraid of, and then Harry's actually hurting him and making him vulnerable and humanizing him. So even though things are getting darker, we're also seeing that dark isn't as strong as we thought it was as it starts to fight back. So again, there's those two elements.
Well, I was going to say too, because when Harry descends into the Chamber of Secrets, he does descend beneath the earth, right? And he has this battle where he has to conquer, the embodiment of death itself, i.e., the basilisk, and then from there, with Fawkes's help, he's able to bring back Ginny and everybody else from the chamber back into the light. It's kind of I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. There's this old legend about the harrowing of hell, where after the crucifixion, Christ goes into hell and grabs all the souls who were trapped there and brings them to paradise. That's the imagery that comes to mind when I saw that particular scene, because Ginny was lost to the world. Harry went down into the ground to get her. He achieved victory over death itself, and he brings everybody back up, and everything has changed as a result, for the better in Harry's case, and for the worse in the case of the Dark Wizards, who have now been exposed, and they have to figure out what's our next move.
Yeah, no, again, they start fighting back. I mean, Prisoner of Azkaban is that next rollout after this, and so they're setting us up really well, I think, for the next level of maturity and the next level of dark. At the end of this movie, I think it was really a sense of danger, a sense of possible death. Like, again, we're just like we're on our edge, and then we see Harry within the elements, working with his friends, facing the demons, if you will, and then overcoming in victory. But yet, at the end of it, it's not like it's over. And that's what I like about it, because it's like, okay, you won this battle today. Here's tomorrow. It ain't over. It's every day. Now, this is one portion of the battle. There's still so much more to it. Okay, how many deadly sins are there?
7.
Okay, keep that in mind. How many Horcruxes were there?
Yep, there's 7. Yep.
Okay, so that element just clicked to me just now. But again, it's not random. I don't think it was random. I think she specifically, because again, what we're fighting is ourself.
Mm-hmm.
What we're overcoming is our own battle. And it's just a story that I think is a life story all the way to the end. I mean, geez, it doesn't get good. And sometimes it's really bad and people are dying and things are happening. But can you still dance? And through all the stuff, you're being chased and everybody's, can you dance? Harry and Hermione have that moment through it all. And that's that moment, I think, is profound in all of these circumstances. Can you dance within the circumstance, good or bad, knowing that you're still fighting the battle? Are you going to continue fighting the battle, but will you dance during it? And Harry was the one that initiated that thing, because he knows that she needed it. And again, it is a thing. Dancing is a serotonin builder. It overcomes a lot of depression and anxiety. It's just, to me, and music does the same thing. It's these little things that she puts in these movies that when I watch them all and I go back and watch the first ones again, they're so much better to me now. Because that first Harry Potter movie and the second Harry Potter movie, they're good, but they're not as great as some of the epic adventures we go on later on. But yet, because I had that experience and I see how she's writing now, I see it differently. I see it more maturely, and all the elements of them fighting the troll and Hermione getting saved by the two of them, and then the group being this like indispensable group. Again, it's just so good. The foreshadowing, and from movie 1 to movie 8, so damn good.
It's a shame. I was going to say, it's a shame that the series is demonized, because to your point, what you said earlier, people will only see that one aspect and nothing else. It's just that when you actually watch these movies or read these books, you begin to connect with the characters and glean the lessons that they try to teach.
And you see past those what would you call them? Like, that's a witch. So she's not looking at her name or her personality type or what she does with her time. That label, the label is not giving people an opportunity to see the characters, see the personalities, right? And the choices. Because Ginny is a great person. She's a great person in the movie from top to bottom. There's not a flaw to Ginny Weasley. There just isn't. And so it just says a lot about ignorance, right? This movie is a part of it, because I think she knew what she was doing, picking wizards and witches.
Yep.
I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of hypocrites in some regard that will say this is a bad thing, but not realize it's a good story.
Yeah, they
It's a
missed the
great
mark.
story.
Yeah, they
Yep,
missed
yep.
the mark entirely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's part of the religious part again. You know, coming into this thing, it's fiction. So we have to take it with a grain of salt of that this woman's writing a story and we're supposed to enjoy the story, just like Tolkien, just like C.S. Lewis. You know, oh, we love C.S. Lewis. I'm like, yep, but they're talking about weird stuff too. They're talking about an ice witch. Oh, the ice witch is a demon, or a bad person. Well, what about this other person? Well, she's not really a witch.
Hmm.
Oh, okay, sure, whatever you're saying. So I've had issues where like they're picking and choosing which author suits their compass of things, right? Where I'm like, they're writing about the same things. She's just using different characters and different style of writing than C.S. Lewis or Tolkien, but they're all talking about the same things.
Right. They're still talking about the same themes. It's just
Yeah.
and it's just speaking to a different audience at a different time. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Again, so don't. I'm saying just because you're not an audience of that doesn't mean you should, like you said, demonize the audience or demonize the material,
Hmm.
right? That's not cool. You're missing. I think you're missing out. But again, I'll tell you right now, I know so many people from church that watch the Harry Potter movies, and
Yep.
to me, it is kind of hypocritical because the way that they treat it, you know, it's like, oh, this is not a big deal, but then they treat people who talk about wizards and witches like they're you know sacrilegious. And so it's just like, again, she is brilliant and she came at such a good time, at least for me in my life, and I think in general. She really took these stories and we're able to apply them into our lives and really make them a household name. And this was another one. I think this was early on. What was this, late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it was 2001 or 3, something in there. But she just hit it at such a perfect time where we all really just embraced, even at movie 2. I think we were all sold. We were all excited for the third movie. We knew it was coming. The books were selling like crazy. I mean, we were talking about this um, a lot. And when I remember when I was a kid,
Yep.
and so, you know, Chamber of Secrets was a huge deal. I was not prepared for Prisoner of Azkaban. I thought it was a little bit scary when I was a kid and I watched it. I think the elements were a little bit too dark right away.
Hmm.
Um, but I was young, but I go back and watch it now and it's kind of goofy, right? Like it's not scary anymore like it was when I first saw it, right? So keep
Yeah.
that
I
in
mean,
mind. We're watching this movie. How many times have you and I watched Chamber of Secrets?
well, for me, this will be the third time I remember reading the book numerous times when I was a kid.
Yeah, I've watched the movies so many times.
I mean,
I used to watch
funny.
them
Well,
every year.
I was gonna say funny enough because I went to Catholic school. Like, whenever we would go and check out books from the school library, the Harry Potter books were like right there. So at least at that time, people didn't have an issue with the Harry Potter books like they do these days. So
Again, that's just, over time you get too many people creating factions and creating friction within fiction, and I don't think it's necessary. I think let people write what they want to write and how they want to write it. And if you don't want to be part of it, then don't be. But don't cut other people's opportunities out to be involved. If something that gives them joy and they appreciate it, then they have every right to be able to participate. And that's just the way
absolutely.
I look about it. And so, this is movie number 2. You and I are, like I've told you before, this is kind of like my world, right? Like this is the world that when it comes to fiction, it pulled me in and I just love it. Between mystery and magic, it's just a happy space. And she does it. It is a mystery. Again, this is exactly what I've been talking about. It has all the elements I've wanted. And so she just got me. And again, getting into the end of this movie, I'm like, my adrenaline's pumping, my fan heart is going like, hey, you're rooting for the guy. It's like your team winning the last shot at the buzzer.
Hmm.
It's that adrenaline. You have that at the end of this movie. Like you're with him through that battle, and then he wins, and you're like, holy smokes, you're sweating with him. Oh, let me say it like this: it's like the never-ending story. How that
Right.
kid
Right.
is in it. That's kind of how I feel when the end of this movie, you're with him. She really got you in it. The story, you won with Harry. And so when the credits are rolling at the end of this movie, I'm still panting and a little bit of sweat in my armpit. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like you
Because you
felt
go on the
like you had
journey, you go on the
experience.
journey with
Yeah,
them.
yeah, you had the experience. And so I'm just like, this was one of the best ones. I mean, I can go back and watch them all over again, but I really do think because of the timing, because of the technology and everything, I think this is one of the best ones out of all of them. So good. Like the mystery is so good, and the layers of it, and then it's like Jenny Weasley, what? The most innocent girl got poltergeisted or possessed, right? And now we're like, oh, she could die. No, Jenny can't die. So again, we're just taken on such a roller coaster through this whole movie. And then at the end of it, it was the best ride we'd ever been on. I can't compare this movie to anything else at that time in my life. Can you think? I mean, I was so enthralled by him. I loved him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, also too. I mean, there are just so many different elements about this movie that you can pick apart, and you would never get tired of talking about. That's the mark of a good writer and a good filmmaker. Really, is you can keep
Yes.
going back and finding something new that
Like I
you
said, the
missed first time.
foreshadowing.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
don't see it until we watch the 5 other movies, the 6 other movies afterwards. But now we can go back and take all this information that we had before, that we didn't have before when we watched the second movie, and apply it to the second movie, and now really take a look at it with a different set of eyes. Because
Right.
we have all this insight, all this outcome, and now we're like, holy smokes, that makes more sense. No wonder they did it this way. Or the little things, like the dude taking the camera, taking the picture. It didn't kill him because he was able to see it through a lens. The girl seeing it through the water, the reflection of the water, didn't kill her.
Seeing through a mirror darkly, as
we didn't put it together right away, but you go back and see it afterwards. It's like, oh man, got us. Great mystery along the line, and us being like, oh, okay, and then they reveal the mystery for us. The secrets are out, and now it's just like, man, that was really well put together. And as a young kid, you don't think about that stuff. Now, 20 years later, it's like as adults, like I said, we're looking at these kid shows, these kid books, and talking like mature adults about the writing and the level of cinematic elements that are just great. And so I think she was I wouldn't say she's ahead of her time. I'd say she was right on time. And that movie came in a perfect time to set up all the rest of them. I feel like the next 15 years or whatever, we're all just waiting for the next Harry Potter movie. They couldn't do us wrong.
Now they're doing a TV show, but that is a whole other discussion.
But I'm saying part 2 usually is the make or break of a movie series.
Exactly.
Right? If you do a bad part 2 movie, usually it's going to hit three or 4. You're not going to even get to 5 or 6, right? So what I'm saying is this was a pivotal point for her in her writing and in these movies to be able to continue this success with how many more books and movies she had coming out, right? So if this was a flop, everybody loved Harry 1, but they hated Harry 2, it could have really hurt her and the progress. So what I'm saying is 2 was just so pivotal.
Yeah, she had to nail it.
She did, and I think she did, and I think it was well done, and I think it just really set everything else up. Like I said, Prisoner of Azkaban was okay in some regards. It was kind of weird, but it was still kept us going. And then she killed it with the Goblet of Fire. Like we're like, oh my god, this was so good. And then they come back with the Order of the Phoenix, which is a whole nother element of like what's going on here, and then really the darkness of the last 2 movies and all the revealing of everything. Just I mean, it was just it's such a great series. So I'm happy to be talking about the second one. I know there's more movies that come forward, but I think today that's I'm
looking
a good spot.
I'm looking forward to discussing Azkaban because that one's my favorite. That's the transitional period where we kind of leave behind the safety net of people getting harmed but not getting killed to where hoop hits the fan, basically.
We start seeing villains.
Yeah.
We start seeing multiple villains now.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not just a random thing coming in or something planned. These are like people like trying to do something to get to Harry and try to fight back now. And so we start seeing that battle begin.
Well, I'm looking forward to having that discussion, Christian.
Yeah, so far so good, man. I appreciate you bringing me in for the Harry Potter series. This is kind of that level of love that I have when it comes to movies, and hopefully, like I said, one day down the road, with the connections that we're making through this, that it opens up opportunities for us to be part of movies and writing and some of these projects, because I
Yeah.
want to take these elements and I want to apply them to new modern things.
Well, I mean, we've already made connections so far. Hopefully, we can keep them up. So.
Yeah, there's more to come, man. I appreciate your time, and thank you again for having me on your show, and looking
Yeah.
forward to the next elements.
All right. I'll catch you on the next one, man.